Hey guys, Wages World coming at you. Today is what is today? The 14th, I think, something like that. August 14th, 2020. Coming at you with the update video. So I'm starting here with the Schumann, but we'll talk about the earthquakes here in just a minute. But yeah, guys, not much going on with the Schumann, so not even going to waste time with that. So we will just move into this real quick. We'll talk about this first, and then I tell you what, let's just do this real quick first, and I'll show you guys the space weather update first. This is that flare I showed you guys last night. Nothing really much came of it. Not a whole lot going on geomagnetic activity, okay? Just nothing going on. Nothing's really impacting Earth. No big coronal holes or any kind of CMEs or anything like that. And by the way, this flare did not, remember I said I didn't think it produced a CME? It did not do that. So there was no eruption, no plasma left the sun there, so no worries there. Anyway, here's the NASA model, and it is showing some sort of here in about 5 days. If you look at this is Earth. Looks like maybe a coronal hole. It might be picking up on that, or maybe there was a small eruption that I didn't see or whatever. But it looks like it might be going to the south of Earth anyway. So whatever that is, I don't think it's going to impact us, and even if it does, it's not going to be that big of a deal. The magnometer here not doing much. Obviously, with no flaring, we're not going to see anything here typically. So here's your Discover data. And what we're looking at here, the BZ, not much going on with that either. It got to like -4 a couple times there, but nothing really to really move the angle of our magnetic field to let that stuff in pretty good. There really wasn't much coming anyway. Now, I do want to point this out. You see how on the density here and on the solar wind speed, see how it looks more like a straight line? The way this graph works, and what a lot of the graphs do, though, it's a data point. So if you were to zoom into that, you might be able to see it right there. I'm not going to zoom in right now, but it's a dot, okay, a literal dot. So anytime you see these numbers changing, it's showing you what that data point is. So when they line up, like the conditions stay pretty close to the same, it makes what looks to form a regular line, just a straight line. You see I have a little jump right there, but look what's going on here. So conditions are more variable right now. Not quite sure. Maybe there was a small coronal hole or whatever. But regardless, no big deal here. But that is what we're seeing. The phi angle did flip a couple little small times here. That is the polarity of the solar wind. We get right here. That was around, I don't know. Well, yeah, right around 850. And yeah, I don't think this had anything to do with the earthquakes. Okay, guys, just so you know. I know that little spot right there does kind of line up with the time frame, but it's not, I don't think it had anything to do with it. So here's our magnetopause models. You're not going to see a whole lot here, guys. Again, there's not really much going on. Now you're going to see a little movement because that's exactly what we're seeing there on the Discover data I just showed you guys. Okay, this is typically it's solar wind impacting our magnetosphere, our magnetic field. Okay. That's what you're looking at there. And that's kilometers per second. That's speed. Speed only. That is the only thing this thing is showing you. All right? But this is the density of that. So when you see the darker blues, that means it's more dense. You can see the graph up here. And it's natural for it to be less dense inside our magnetosphere because our magnetic field's out here deflecting a lot of this stuff. Okay, so inside that is Earth's protection, right? See how it's really, really white? Now, I know you get down through here, but that's a different discussion. Okay, it's a little bit more dense as you get closer to the surface. That is almost always that way. And there are reasons for that. I'm just not going to go into that right now. But it's completely normal. But as we're looking at this, not much happening, guys. Looks like there on the end, maybe we might be taking some sort of a solar wind hit, but not a big one. At least from what I can see. Pressure, obviously most people understand this one more because when you say pressure, we all understand what pressure feels like. But this is magnetic pressure on our magnetosphere or magnetic field. And really not much going on, guys. I mean, honestly. All right, guys, this is over at ISWA. This is SDO. This is the one I show you guys all the time. Most of you guys understand what this is. This is extreme ultraviolet. This is the 171 angstrom. This is the 211. So, basically, they're looking at different gases. That's why they break that out like that, because you can't see this stuff with your naked eye. But anyway, nothing going on. Okay, I just have to say that. We had that flare yesterday, and it wasn't a big one. You know, no big eruption. This same sunspot area, or active area, because there are no sunspots right now, was firing very similar flares for quite some time since it was right here. And it seemed to be more southerly directed or more across the surface of the sun. Hardly any of it left the sun during any of those flares. So, yeah, not much more to show you there. Alright guys, here's your Aurora forecast. Obviously, when you get a little bit more geomagnetism, what happens is the auroras kick up. And you're seeing a little bit of an uptick here on the end of this time lapse. You see that? This is the North Pole, South Pole over here. And the reason why is, if you look at the Discover data that I just showed you, you've seen what it was doing. And this is actually corroborating what I just said. So it's actually, confirming that. Now we got the geoelectric field model too. Now this model's different. This is the one that shows you geomagnetism and its effect on unnatural electrical components. Basically our power grid. Okay, they're working on this model still. It's three-dimensional. This one here is just a one-dimensional model, and it works just fine. You can see how this one's not completed yet. They're still working on this one. Once they get the bugs out, this one will be awesome. But this one here, you can definitely see that you got an overall, constant blanket of extra pressure right now. You can see that right over here. See how it's darker over here? So let me just roll that through there like that. And you're seeing a couple little blips there, right? So that might be what we're seeing in the Discover data. Now, it's not, again, guys, you got to remember that our magnetic field is not like a blanket, okay? If it's a blanket, well, that blanket is thin in spots and it has holes. So, kind of like if you're covering up with a blanket and you got a fan on you, if you roll over, sometimes that blanket, the air gets underneath it and makes you cold, right? Well, that's exactly what you're kind of seeing here. When that angle changes, which is that BZ that I've talked about multiple times, right here, that would be that angle. And that wind gets in, right? That's exactly it's kind of exactly what I was talking about with the blanket thing. So, you can kind of think of it that way if you want. If not, I get it. But that's just kind of how I explain it. Okay, guys, there was a small eruption. Well, I don't want to call it small. It looks actually kind of sizable. I'm not sure how powerful it was, but this is going off the backside. So how do I know it's off the backside? Well, this satellite's always looking at the sun. It's right out in front of Earth. It's about 1 million miles closer to the sun. So when everything's fired off the sun here, this black that's an actual physical disk on the imager that blocks the main light of the sun, so we can even get a capture at all, right? So when the things are going directly away from us or towards us, we don't know. So we have to have a side view or a different satellite without this occulter to kind of see, right? So we're lucky enough to have something like that. So let's go over here to Stereo A, and lo and behold, you see what's going on there, right? So to give you perspective here, if you look at my cursor, the satellite would be here, Earth would be over here. Now, it would be way back further, not this close, but that's the angle we're talking about. So this thing is not coming at us. No harm, no foul there. No worries. Okay, guys, this is Spaceweather.com. Obviously, guys, you guys know I love showing you guys this website. They do a great job over here, I think. You can see where we had that C1. I think it was a C1.4, I believe is what, if I remember correctly. But yeah. And again, guys, there was no eruption with it, but they're showing it to you right here. And that's exactly what that is. They're also commenting on the sun being blank. And again, I have to stress that this is very normal for early on in the sun cycle. But one thing they point out, and I've been pointing it out too, is the fact that, if you compare this to last sun cycle, it does seem like we're on more of an uptick. Okay? So That's just what I'll say there. Now, does it really matter? Well, if everything's firing off the backside of the sun, not really. Um, so we'll just keep moving with that, right? Now, here are your fireball reports. Notice, just like I've said, and I hope somebody wasn't out there just blowing this way out of proportion. See how this number's starting to fall back. Why? Because we are pulling out of that Perseid meteor shower. All right? This is what you're seeing here. This is from that meteor shower. That's why they're all coming from the same direction. Okay? So I want you guys to understand that. Almost 99% of the time when you see this thing numbers start rising, it's a known meteor shower. So please keep that in mind. Always take that in consideration, all right? And this is reported fireballs. This isn't something that's being seen. It can be from telescopes and satellites and stuff, but this is, some of this stuff's coming from people on the ground see these fireballs. So that's what I'm trying to say. Those are reported. And I'm not sure if they're confirmed. I would say probably confirmed. They can find them pretty quick. Like if somebody says, hey, there was a fireball, then they start looking at their data and they'll be able to find it. But as far as near Earth objects, guys, again, look, 2021, 2021. They always name them and they put the year in front, right? Notice right here, August 13th, 14th, see how the numbers start. You see a 2016, a 2016, 2019. Well, once we get down here, like on the 22nd of August, you're probably going to see more added 2021. They just can't see all this stuff, guys. It's impossible. So as it gets closer, they start catching some more of them. And again, they don't catch them all, even the ones that get reported here. Okay? But, right now, not much to talk about. And I know that NASA came out with the Bennu update. Everybody should go take a look at that one on their own. Just kind of that asteroid that they were trying to predict how close, what the chances of it, hitting Earth or what have you. I would suggest everybody go read the articles on that and make up your own mind on that one. So it's just there's so much stuff to consider on that. I don't want to come out and just say, hey, this is what is going to happen and all that kind of stuff. I just suggest everybody go read all the articles on it. Now, Noctilucent clouds, guys. Okay, remember me pointing this out yesterday, and I had a couple questions. I showed you guys that meteor blowing up in the atmosphere. I wonder if it's still there. Nope, they pulled that down. Well, I'll tell you what we can do. Let's go back to the 13th here real quick. Hopefully it'll... Okay, yeah, it took us back. That was some awesome looking Aurora there. Who got that one? John David McKinnon. Yeah, John, great job. Great job. That's awesome. But here is one of the meteors blowing up in the atmosphere, and they were asking, somebody asked me, why did it just go that way? Why did the dust, blow out that way? Well, what I would say here, guys, is we don't know the actual angle. Okay? How this thing is actually coming in the atmosphere, how it's blowing up. But also something we got to take in consideration. When this stuff blows up, most of these particles have a magnetic charge to them. And again, our magnetic field's up that high, it will grab it. That is the whole, I'm showing you guys this for a reason. Because that is the whole reason we even talk about these. That dust that came off of that thing, a lot of it probably got sucked to the poles. Okay? And it's hanging around the upper atmosphere. Water vapor gets around it and it freezes. So then you get that. Now, and again, this is kind of confirming why we see an uptick here because we're in that meteor shower. This is pretty bright. We don't typically see this kind of concentration. All right? So that's what I would say to that. Okay, guys. Hopefully I helped you guys understand that. I hope I answered that question for the Noctilucent clouds. But obviously, guys, this is the big story today. This is bad. All right? No other way to say it. You guys know what I say every time we look at the USGS map. The most important one we look at is this pager button. And why? Because it tells us the loss of life. Okay? Loss of economic loss here. Now, we got to keep in mind, Haiti had that big one at Port-au-Prince a couple of years back. They're still recovering from that. So this is devastating for these people. Okay? I would suggest everybody pray for them, send them good thoughts and stuff. I mean, just yeah, this is bad. I hate reporting on this stuff. You guys know I do, but I do bring it to you guys because I think it's important. But as you're looking at this, you can see the chances of fatalities, right? You can see how the majority of what they, what this graph is trying to say here, 10,000, I don't think we're going to get to that, okay? But that's like a 35% chance of that happening between 10 and 100,000. I don't think that this is going to happen. Right now, I think it's at 220 some people. That number will most definitely rise as they start digging through the rubble. But it's just going to be bad. Economic loss is probably not going to be as high as what most people would think, just for the fact that the buildings down there just are not that valuable. And there's a reason. If they were more valuable, they would probably be held to a higher code, and the buildings wouldn't fall. You take this same earthquake and you drop it on the West Coast somewhere, it's not going to be as destructive because those buildings out there are built for it. It would still be destructive if it hit in the right places, but it wouldn't be as destructive is what I'm trying to say. The building codes are just so much stricter out there. And so, with that said, we'll take a look at this real quick. So what we're looking at here, guys, here's the big one, okay? Well, I don't want to call it the big one because it wasn't the biggest one. It was the biggest one here in this area, most destructive because of where it hit, okay? So I'm going to zoom down in here and I'm going to show you why. Number one, it was not over water. Now, there was no tsunami related with this, okay? Now, if this had hit offshore, it would probably still been destructive just because of its location. And then it actually probably would have had a better chance of causing a tsunami. But there was no tsunami with this, okay? So this is where it hit, right? And if you look at this and we start backing back out, obviously it's on one of these plate boundaries that we talk about. And, that is what it is. I want to point something out, and I pointed this out in my my video last night, my stream I did last night. This is, what's my setting right now? This is 7 days, 4.5 or bigger. That's the setting I got this right now. Nothing in the United States except up here in Alaska. Because this is interesting. This right here is a 7.2. This one here was a 6.9. Okay, now let's not forget this. Look at this mess. This right here is, and I talked about this last night, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to 1 day, 2.5 or more. And you get that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the 2.5 7 day back up so we can see all these. Okay? And I made a comment on this, guys. If you look at the last 24 hours, almost all of these aftershocks were 5 points or bigger. Plus, something interesting that they did is they went back and they added at 8.1. Okay? 8.1 or 8.2. I can't remember. Let's do this. Hold on a minute. Let's change that back to that. We'll go down through here and look. Okay, there's the one in Haiti. Here's the one in Alaska. Look at all these. Now, this is 7 days. This is a week. But this is quite a few bigger ones. Here's the 6.3. That was a quote-unquote aftershock, but it's its own quake because it was from, stemmed off that bigger one. Now, we're going to scroll on down through here, and we'll catch it here in just a second. Notice all those 5s and high 4s. Those are all down here, majority of them. They added this 8.1 after the 7.5. The 7.5 was 63.3 deep kilometers. This one was 48, right? I've not seen them do this very often. Okay? And I think because it's so significant, they may have, dug more into this. I don't know. I have no idea, honestly. It's just my thought process here. But what I can say, guys, is the fact that, I was telling you guys yesterday that, the aftershocks were big. And they were continuing to be 5 plus or more. And that was off of a 7.5 quake. Now, when they add the 8.1, that makes a little bit more sense. But what I want to show you guys here is, when we look at this, you might go over here and look at this USGS map. I know I don't use a three-dimensional globe map here. I just understand this one better and it's kind of easier to navigate. But this was a big one. You know, this one here happened second after this, but there were a couple more going on too. But if you look at this, you see how they're almost equal distance apart. Okay, like this is in the middle. What I want you guys to understand is the fact that we're looking at a map. This is a flat map. You put this on a globe, and what you would do, you could draw a line, and that would start curving right there, right? So these are like a straight line down through the globe, is what I'm trying to say. And they're following these plate boundary lines. There's been multiple other ones going on too. I'm not sure if anybody's even talked about this part of it yet. I'm sure somebody out there probably has, because I'm not the earthquake guy, right? I'm just kind of showing you what I think. But something else I want to say here, guys, again, I mentioned this, nothing was going on in the West Coast yesterday at all. I said, hey, you know, this is, I even said, you know, I get concerned when I see lack of activity, because we expect a certain amount of activity. So with this one popping off here, and sometimes what we'll see, guys, and again, I'm not saying that I know exactly what's going on. I'm not making any kind of predictions or anything like that. But I do think it would be smart to understand that because of lack of activity here, sometimes when we see these things equal distance apart, especially when you follow these lines, right? When you follow them down, it's almost the same distance between these earthquakes. Sometimes what will happen is you'll start getting ones popping off in the middle, and then we've seen this one pop off not too long ago. This one right there, that's UTC time, so that's what, almost 4 o'clock UTC. So that would be about noon Eastern time. All right. So in between these two, what am I saying here? I think we probably should be looking and just being concerned, not really concerned, just being aware that we need to be looking in this area and paying attention. There's not enough we can do to stop it anyway, guys, okay? I just want to say that first and foremost. There's nothing we can do to stop any of this stuff. I just want people to be aware. Now, what I would say, I wouldn't think that it would be as strong, because you get the bigger ones typically on the outside from, you know, this is from my observations. And you know, I do the space weather thing, and I'm not so sure that space weather is having any effect on any of this stuff right now. Okay? It could be at some level. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not the earthquake guy, but these are just my observations. All right? And that's simple as that. You know, please don't take it for more than that. It's just my view on what I see. And I hope that, you know, I'm sure there's a lot smarter people out there talking about this on this. So go look at all those channels, earthquake channels. Go look at all of it. I haven't had time to go look at any of it, just to be honest with you. So I'm just trying to pop this. I seen it come across, you know, big earthquake, so I wanted to come on here and give you guys an update. But if you go back to my live stream yesterday, you remember me saying, you know, we haven't had any activity out here, and we typically see a bunch. And then all of a sudden we start getting these, you know, these bigger earthquakes right here. It just makes sense to me, because that, you know, it's just how it works. So anyway, that's what I would say to that. But yeah, so that's probably going to be the end of it here. Oh, let me show you this article, okay? This is from Reuters. Here's some of the pictures. This is just, it's horrible. I mean, this is just, I hate it. You know, and the fact, you know, economic loss, whatever, right? But when we're talking about losing lives, that's where it really sucks. Okay, and you guys can tell, everybody knows this, that the buildings down here are not built to withstand this stuff. And for the life of, I understand it's a poor country and all that, but for the life of me, man, I just don't understand why they can't make that a little bit different. It just makes no sense to me. But well, I'm sure it's a monetary thing. But anyway, I am going to go ahead and end it there, guys. If anything else pops off, I might pop on for a minute. But anyway, guys, God bless. Yahusha saves. And you can drink this Kool-Aid.